Remember, this entire manga and every manga on this channel is hand-drawn by myself, and now you too can learn exactly how to make your own viral Dragon Ball mangas at www.makemanga.com, where you can learn directly from me. My mangas have got me on TV, on newspapers, and even earned me over $60,000 a month on Patreon alone. And now, you can click the link in the description and pinned comment of this video and do it yourself. You only need to see the website to see just how many thousands of you are taking this opportunity right now. And don't forget also, the next video to this Ultra Vegito series has already been made and is live now on my Patreon right now for over 4,500 of you incredible fans to watch after this. Again, links are in the pinned comment and description. Enjoy. So our story continues with a poised Frieza sitting across from a shocked Vegito, after the Emperor had just revealed the apparent existence of a weakness to the all-powerful Zeno and Grand Priest, with the eagerly anticipating Vegito questioning, secret? To defeating those two? You had all that time with me, and only now you mention this? Spit it out, Frieza! Before in a stark change of tone, the Godkiller's eyes would inexplicably then glow yellow, as he activates his Ikari form and adds, and if you're lying, by the way, you can be damn well sure. You and this entire ship, full of your flunkies, will be sent to the next dimension. I'm not here for your games, and if you even think to mess with me for a second, you'll be erased before you know it. Leaving a now seriously concerned Frieza smirking, but with a tense sweat drop coming down his skull, before he replies, "How polite of you to threaten me in my own home. Well, I can at least assure you that what I'm about to tell you is no lie. Don't you worry about that, Saiyan." As continuing to place his fingers and hands together, Frieza's smirk would disappear as he would begin telling a story from his past, recounting, "It all started while you were locked away by those gods. All that time in the universe alone, left to my own devices without any of you monkeys meddling, meant I had traveled almost its entirety. I had seen many things and learned even more. It was during those travels that I eventually encountered a strange dark planet in the North Quadrant, almost hidden away. On it were beasts far more powerful than any I had seen on any other. Horned creatures ready to kill on sight. Of course, I eventually wiped them all out for their insolence, but not before I came across what they were protecting so fiercely. A library of some sorts. Literature that, to my shock, mentioned the priest himself, and so too his brother, the Great Demon, name unknown. But this so-called Great Demon is said to be the ruler of an entire realm just as large as our multiverse. In other words, another Zeno, but for a demonic realm. How he got there isn't clear, but it seems the gods and angels have been fighting a war against these demons for as long as time has gone on. And it is said it is all for the sake of keeping this one demon locked away. For if he were to ever escape into our realm, it would be the end of all life as we know it. The tale, though, and its unusual corroboration of the information he was told by Broly, would suddenly then pique Vegito's interest, as he would think internally, The Great Demon, huh? So it wasn't a bluff from that oaf after all. He really does exist. The priest's brother, lucif. But would releasing him truly mean the end of all life? If that was really the case, then that would mean he's even stronger than Zeno and the priest. Just the kind of power I need. Before Vegito would finally then actually reply, turning to Frieza, pretending to be none the wiser, asking, "Interesting. Now, did these books perhaps mention how exactly he could find a way to escape?" And Frieza, now thinking back, with his hand under his chin and his eyes closed, would then respond unsure. Good question, monkey. Well, the book became pretty vague after that point. That, or some of the pages were missing. But I believe since the angels and gods were the ones keeping the demons at bay, I'd assume now that only a few remain. This would be a better time than any for our demonic friend to make an appearance. But the literature did mention one thing. This demon has been out here before, and it took a great deal for him to be defeated. By who? I'm not sure, but they say his return is inevitable, whether the gods like it or not. He will appear within a certain chosen one they describe with a blackened heart, 2 huge horns, and one that has committed the greatest of sins. But Frieza, now laughing and smirking menacingly, would add on, "And I think with that description, we both know who that chosen one will be. You do remember my other forms, don't you? I'm not certainly lost for any horns, and certainly not lost for sins. And I have an entire blackened form, let alone heart. I believe this potential of mine must be linked to this great power. And if you are just able to bring it out of me within our training, I can promise to unleash the great demon's power, destroying both of those insolent brats. While of course, sparing you, my dear friend." While Vegito would be far from fazed by the tale. His own eyes closed now as he folds his arms and responds, "You, a chosen one? Don't be ridiculous. You'd be dead right now if it wasn't for Kakarot promising you a gift for fighting in the tournament. I've heard enough of this to know exactly who this chosen one will apparently be. Blackened heart is a stretch, but the sin they are talking about is no ordinary one. They mean the cardinal sin, one of which I've already heard is killing a god. And those horns, I doubt they are any ordinary variant either. More like this!" As suddenly, out of nowhere, Vegito, to prove his point, would unleash his own demonic horns straight out of his skull. Now without any blood or aftermath, as if the horns have now become one with the God Killer. What in all hell? And immediately, on viewing such a feat, the Emperor would screech in a mixture of fear and confusion, yelling, "Those horns! What kind of monkey are you?" Before ducking his head down, now in anger and frustration of his dreams being dashed, as he begins to think, "How did I not notice such a thing? That damn crystal ball was so blurred I couldn't make out his complete appearance. But for these Saiyans to have gained horns like this, How interesting. How revolting. Father would be rolling in his grave. But Frieza would soon begin hiding his true feelings, switching to a smile as he quickly rises up from his chair, looking at Vegito, as he lets out, "Fine. Thank you for showing me your party trick. Perhaps it may not be as clear-cut who the great demon has chosen as their heir, but I'm sure in due time we will find out for sure just who has the potential for ultimate power." But as Frieza would get lost in his thoughts, the God Killer would be quick to meet him at his side, unbothered and grabbing his shoulder, eyes closed as he lets out nonchalantly, "Nope. You can be the heir, whatever else you want. I couldn't care less. I don't need any demon to steal my prize. The gods are my prey, and nobody is taking that away from me. Not unless they want to die too." Before just as quickly as he reached Frieza, he would already be off, waving his hand on the way out of the door, saying, "Good night, Frieza. Try not to do anything evil while I'm away." But Frieza, looking on, would be left in bewilderment, eventually yelling, "Wait, monkey! What do you think you're doing? My ship is not your personal hotel. What about our training?" To which Vegito would just turn briefly and say, exhausted, "In the morning, kid. I've just ate and I need to sleep. You have no idea how long I've been constantly fighting without a break now. Arj is a real slave driver, I'll tell you that." And Frieza, now annoyed but somehow understanding of Vegito's situation, having watched him from afar, would then begrudgingly concede, "As much as it pains me to say, you do make a good point, Saiyan. Very well, we shall convene in the morning. Sleep well, ape." And so soon, the scene would then shift to Vegito in bed finally again, his eyes closed peacefully as he enters a well-deserved deep sleep. And as we soon zoom closer into his completely in bliss nap, we soon begin to get a view about what our hero is even dreaming about. And of course, as you'd expect from a warrior race, he would be dreaming of fighting, with his fist colliding with a familiar black-haired figure from behind. And with a big smile on his face, Vegito would let out, "Not bad at all, kid. Seems you haven't been slacking off as usual. Chi-Chi won't be happy. You've been laying off the books. You've been training, haven't you?" "Just a bit, Dad." And of course, once we finally do see who his opponent is, it is revealed to be none other than his deceased son, Gohan. As with a reciprocating smile back, he would reply, "Work's given me some time off, but Pan's been keeping me busy more than ever. I've tried my best to sneak off with Mr. Piccolo for some sparring here and there. I guess you could say it's that." But interrupting the loving reunion, yet another sun would suddenly appear in the sky, sword in hand and ready to attack his father too, this time of course being Kid Trunks, already in his Super Saiyan form and mimicking perfectly his future self. But looking out the corner of his eye, of course, Vegito would be far from taken off guard by the young swordsman. as he would comment, "Very good, Trunks. Looks like you're starting to master that sword I gave you after all. You'll be coming into your own soon enough, it seems." And much to the surprise of the inexperienced boy, but not to us, Vegito would then proceed to vanish instantly from the scene. Where did Dad go? But while Trunks would be left confused, Gohan would also be left with a blank expression, muttering, "Wait a minute, Trunks, you're here too, but that means, who's looking after Pan? I paid you to babysit tonight, Trunks!" Suddenly leaving the doting father to angrily yell out while a vein bulges from his forehead. Sorry, I kinda pulled that off to Goten in the end, causing the carefree but sorry Trunks to place his hand behind his head and try to explain himself, while the still cheesed off Gohan would just grumble, "Trunks!" Huh? But as the two stepbrothers would argue, Vegito eventually would reappear in the distance, surprising them both, with the God Killer now with his hands on his hips and saying, "You two never learn, do you? Always keep your eyes on the prize. Don't embarrass me and come at me again. I raised you both better than this." To which both Gohan and Trunks would then confidently smile, with Gohan saying, "You did, Dad. We're just getting started, aren't we, Trunks?" While Trunks would sound out, "Uh-huh." And instantly, the two would then get into battle-ready stances. Gohan's fist tightened, while Trunks would hold out his sword. And it wouldn't be long before the two eager sons would rush in at full force, each with a chip on their shoulder to prove the results of their training to Vegito. "Yes, that's it, boys. Never give up!" As the proud father would just watch on, smiling. "We'll show you, Dad!" As he just remains near completely still, as both simultaneously would get closer and closer. How cute! But as soon as they would arrive, his lack of movement would be quickly explained, as not only would Gohan miss, but the sharp edge of Trunks' blade would be blocked by the God Killer's knuckles alone. And swiftly would then proceed to knee Gohan straight in the face, while Trunks would receive a backhand for his efforts instead. And as the two younger Saiyans would reel in their pain, a giggling Vegito would just move back saying, "Good try, but both of you are moving far too slow." Before quickly transitioning to grab both of his sons by the face, but of course, not as hard as he grabbed some other foes from his past. What? This time, instead of rushing to the ground to smash their skulls like he had done with so many gods before, Vegito would just playfully jump over and behind. "Come on! Stop with the confused looks! Hurry up and carry on your attacks, boys! I'm right here!" And immediately, seeking their chance, both sons would then instantly launch their own elbows backwards at full force. What? Not again! But of course, the two completely outclassed young warriors would just face their father vanishing once again. "Up here, you two! you two keep up already? This is starting to be a drag. Whoa! Where's Dad's voice coming from? But while Trunks would wonder in inexperience where Vegito even was, Gohan would immediately shoot off to face his father alone. What? Gohan? You're dealing with me now, Dad! Leaving Vegito to once again just stay prone, his hands on his hips, waiting for his next challenge. With Gohan, with a determined face, just thinking to himself, Mr. Piccolo wouldn't be happy with how I'm doing right now. I have to forget about Trunks and take this up a notch. While the smirking Vegito would just comment, Attaboy! They say you're the Saiyan with the most potential. Now's the time to prove it. Hey! Wait for me! But as Gohan would go, the battle-ready Trunks would not be left behind and shoots off himself. And straight away, in the midst of battle, both attacks would be caught this time, as a slightly impressed Vegito would let out, Now that's what I'm talking about. Keep going! And so the three would battle, father and sons, deep into the evening. As lone on the battlefield floor, Trunks' gifted sword would just be left behind. Damn. And eventually, after hours of battling futilely against Vegito, both Trunks and Gohan would be sat absolutely exhausted, covered in bruises and scratches, while behind their completely blemishless father would just stand with his arms folded and a big smile saying, Well done, guys! You almost made me break a sweat out there! But I'm afraid, if this is all you've got, you two have a long way before you can ever protect this planet. But on hearing these words of backhanded compliments, a serious look of dissatisfaction would come from both sons, as they stare eagerly back at Vegito until... Instantly, both sons would transform, going up one more level surprisingly, with Trunks reaching his Super Saiyan 2 status, while Gohan's hair would go blonde also. And almost resembling his fused father, Gohan would then duck his head down slightly and let out with a smirk, No, Dad. Me and Trunks are ready now more than ever. We'll never let something like what happened with those destroyers happen ever again. You just haven't seen all we have to give yet. And just like that, the two now powered up Saiyans would launch even faster than before at Vegito. While the God Killer, all the more interested, would just whisper out, Oh, so there was more in the tank after all. Good. I was starting to wonder if you took more after your mothers. But make this quick. It's almost time for dinner. But suddenly, just as Vegito would begin readying himself, something would go off in his head. Something would not be right. What? What is going on? As suddenly, Vegito's eyes and mouth would burst open in fear, as he no longer maintains his usual calm and collected self. My head! What is this? And soon, whatever was disturbing him mentally would now begin to cause him extreme pain and discomfort within his skull, as he grabs onto it hard, as if trying his best to stop something from exploding out. Could it be his horns once again? Where am I? But unfortunately, once Vegito would remove his arms and open his eyes, Gohan and Trunks would no longer be near him, as instead, inexplicably, Vegito would be surrounded by complete darkness.
You're home, Vegito!
As unbelievably, a dark creature would instantaneously appear in front of him, massive in stature, dark in color, and never having ever been seen before by the God Killer. As Vegito, for the first time in a long while, for some reason, would be left speechless, sensing an energy like no other that leaves him sweating and only able to mutter out, "This key, this evil, who are you?" And in an eerily dark and deep laugh, the disgusting-looking monster would look down at the God Killer with great joy and amusement, before finally letting out,
What do you mean, who am I? I am you, Vegito! Now, unleash my power and...
Before we then briefly zoom in on the creature's face for an eerie silence until it would let out,
Kill them! Kill them all!
And on the outside, like a rabid dog heeding its master's call, Vegito would be sent into a rage, as his pupils would momentarily disappear, and suddenly his demon horns would burst open once more, even within his dreams. But things would not end there, as screaming high into the sky, so too would the entire body of Vegito begin to change too, as his blue gi would begin ripping off from in front and behind in place for black and silver fur. Until we would get a brief look of Vegito's face now, where not only would his large purple scar return across his face, but his signature purple glowing demon eyes would return also, and a plume of hot smoke would then leave his mouth.
Kill them! I will kill them all!
As finally, now in his final true demon form, Vegito would be complete once again, slathered in his dark aura as lightning dances all over his now stone-cold expression, his eyes pinpointed at his two sons, and no longer in a loving, fatherly way. Huh? What happened to him? Dad! Is that you? Leaving both Gohan and Trunks to be left in complete shock and disarray as they watch their once warm and smiling father now turn into something completely unexpected. Come to me, my sons! As Vegito, now bearing a voice similar to the demon he just saw, would now bear the same devilish smirk too, as at first he would remain unmoving until... Come to me and die! As suddenly, at breakneck speed, true Demon Vegito would now flip the script and launch at his two sons this time. Dad? I thought you said you wouldn't attack back! As the God Killer, who would no longer seem himself, would just appear instantly before his young son, grunting back, That's funny! I thought I said... Die! Huh? his palm suddenly outstretched in front of the vulnerable child's face, as Gohan would yell in disbelief, "Dad, what's going on? That's way too close! Stop!" But unbelievably, with no warning, whatever this monster is, this creature that looks like Vegito is, it instantly blasts the young Trunks with no remorse. And in its wake, leaving nothing but dust, as the child Saiyan is lost forevermore. Dad! What have you done? And in a cocktail of rage, fury, and shock, Gohan would begin yelling, unleashing his true potential as his power would begin to skyrocket on the witnessing of his stepbrother's murder. Guess you're going to prove how talented you are now, aren't you, son? But the seemingly possessed Vegito would not bat an eye, and instead quickly just engage his Godslayer blade before... Shut up already! And in one callous and unmerciful swipe would cut through the body of his son. In the end, leaving the stunned for words Gohan to just breathe heavily as blood seeps from his deep wound, zooming closer and closer into his face until a final teardrop and Gohan would let out with his final breath, "Dad, why?" Gohan! But suddenly back in the real world, the nightmare would finally be over, as positively jumping up from his bed, Vegito would wake up yelling his son's name. His whole body now sweating, the fused Saiyan would grab at his throbbing head, trying to calm himself down as he wonders, What the hell was that dream? Did that really just happen? I killed my sons! No, something else happened in there. As a chilling tingle would come down the spine of the God Killer as he suddenly remembers the face of the demon he momentarily saw. As he continues, "What was that thing in there? Its energy, it was pure darkness. Could that have been lucif? No, it has to just have been my imagination. Surely." But these thoughts wouldn't have long to fester, before a sudden knock at the God Killer's door would then be heard. And walking through it, an unfamiliar foot would step forth. "Oi, Saiyan! Wakey, wakey! Time's up! Get ready and get out of our ship! Your kind isn't welcome here any longer! Lord Frieza's outside! Don't make him wait, or I will bring you to him by force! Got it?" As suddenly, a massive brute within Frieza's army busts through the door and begins ordering Vegito around with authority. And instantly, an already tense from his nightmare Vegito would sink his facial expression before replying, "Thanks for the unwanted alarm. I'll be ready in a moment, but I'm afraid you won't be getting away with talking to me like that, bud." As suddenly, raising his hand up to the deluded henchman, Vegito would take aim, but not before the soldier would add, "Huh? Now what the hell do you think you're going to do with that scrawny little..." As instantly, of course not surprising to us, the foolish grunt would be sent flying out of the spaceship and to his untimely death. All of which is in front of a patiently waiting Frieza who stands with his hands behind his back as if observing the fireworks. Eventually giving off an awkward laugh as he looks cautiously with a drop of sweat and says, "Well, at least it seems the monkey has now finally awoken. Though, what mood he's in is still yet to be seen. I'll just have to make sure I have enough bananas at the ready, won't I, gentlemen?" And so soon enough, with his rude detractor dealt with, Vegito would arrive outside to face the Emperor. And with his training partner finally here, a smiling Frieza would say, "Glad to see you're finally here. Who knew you Saiyans could sleep as much as you ate? This will be day 1 of our training. I chose this planet specifically for its robustness. Many of my men's training days have been here for years, mine included. Rest assured, the surface of this planet will be strong enough to withstand both of our full powers at full blast. I'm ready when you are." But finding Frieza's words humorous, Vegito, with a disinterested look, almost annoyed, would reply, "Speak for yourself, weakling. This hollow moon you call a planet wouldn't last more than a few minutes if I truly let loose. Stand back and I'll show you a far better option." Lifting up his arm to instantly summon an angel staff within it before. With a tap on the ground by the end of the staff, vibrations would be sent all across the planet. And as expected in the distance, the familiar triangular-shaped construction would then suddenly appear straight from the ground. What the devil is that? Was that always here? Leaving the Emperor, of course, surprised to say the least, never having ever expected anything of the sort from his Saiyan foe. But Vegito, already on his way walking over to it, would just let out, "No, this wasn't always here, Frieza. This is the Pyramid of Power, something the angels and gods have access to. A room where for every day that goes on the outside, 2 years will pass on the inside. Come along now and..." And suddenly, with a random devious change in expression, the God Killer would then finish, "And get ready to train for the next 20 years! What? 20 years? Training with a monkey? Leaving the Emperor to reel back in shock and disbelief, as even he cannot contemplate such an extended period of time with the God Killer. But as the saying goes, you should always be careful what you wish for. But as time passes and Frieza and Vegito are seen in the pyramid finally, it would be Vegito who would be looking uncomfortable now, as he suddenly sports a Saiyan-esque Frieza set of armor, and grabbing at it in disapproval, he would soon comment, "Is this really all you had for a spare top? I feel like you're insulting me. This brings back some terrible memories, you know, Frieza." While the chuckling Frieza, now posed with his hand on his chin, would just smile and reply, "Unfortunately, beggars can't be choosers. I'd have given you some of my wardrobe, but as you can see, I don't tend to wear much these days. But regardless, if you truly are planning on training for the next 20 years, then you will need something far more durable than that pathetic cloth you're used to." To which the now conceding Vegito would place his hands on his hips and say back, "I suppose you're right. At least this armor will grow or shrink to any size I desire. Well now, shall we begin?" as Frieza would then pull his arms down beside him and ominously reply, "Of course, any time." And instantly with perfect control over his form, Frieza would then unleash his most powerful black form, covered in tremendous aura, as he stares at the God Killer and says, "Let us skip the warm-up since you took so long sleeping. Full power from the get-go should suffice." But completely disinterested, Vegito would just shut him down, saying, "Full power? You clearly have memory issues, as we already know how this battle will go even when I'm in base. You're far too weak as you are now to challenge me. I reckon you're at least a good month or two of training with your crazy growth before you can even start making me sweat." "Why you? My power has increased already from our last battle, I'll have you know. How dare you talk down to me like that?" But as Frieza would become angered, Vegito would suddenly spit down to the floor. And as the spit would hit the ground, it would be seen to not be the usual kind. Instead pink and far thicker in consistency. As suddenly, the pink goo would begin shifting into shape and size, eventually rising up and expanding until... "You can deal with me, Frieza!" Unbelievably, like a Cell Jr., a mini Vegito would be born from the God Killer's spit. Of course, only a fraction of his power, as the taller Vegito would say. "Perfect. You two should make a fine combination together. First overcome him, and then you can have a shot at me." But meanwhile, Frieza would just be left nothing short of lost for words, as with a completely defeated and awkward look, his final words would be, "I hate you." But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Vegito Jr. in the comments down below, and let me know how you think this very special training will go, or just find out what happens right now on my Patreon, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked, and edited for you to enjoy, with over 4,000 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.